Hello folks, this is a follow-up on the big fig that I repotted, trimmed up, cleaned up, and all of that. I've had a time with all of this, but I think I've made some good progress. As you can see, I've done some trimming work in here, you know, and I've sealed it with, this is a liquid kind of paint on, brush on sealant. It's good for temporary work, and not only that, it helps me to see where I've worked on something and need to go back and take a look at it. This will eventually either be painted or just simply liquid lime sulfur on this, but I'll probably colorize that after the lime sulfur. It'll all get lime sulfur anyway, but I've cut back the branches on this, pretty much got the front view that I like established in my mind, but of course that can change. I've cleaned up some of the previous cuts on this. I've taken my torch and burned that dead wood right there, so that'll help preserve it. I've not watered this in yet. I'm still kind of working on this, but let's see if I can get around here and give you a good view. Of course, I took the torch to all of this, and that helps preserve the wood. I just cleaned off the margin where the live tissue is, and that's going to help it start healing again. The bark right here is obviously alive, but this wood right here is really old and dead. It's been there for a while, and nothing's really grown in here for a few seasons. You can probably see this right here, the color differentiation between this stuff and that's the growth in the live wood. So nothing much grew on this side, but it grew exponentially on this side, mainly because of the trunks that were growing and forcing the weight and the growth to go that way. This side here has a little bit more of new growth than this right here, but it's all still alive and it's still working. Again, I've pretty much established the wider nabari is this side or the side opposite of this branch here, but I like this angle, so I'll have to eliminate these two branches, wire those to the opposing side a little bit more to get it from being more in the direct view. This branch will probably come off, and hopefully this will bifurcate and I can wire that more to that direction to give me some movement. If I can save that branch, I'll probably wire it down and get, you know, just a interesting feature out of it. Not very long at all, but just probably 2 or 3 inches, and then let the branches divide there to again, just to have some feature. I like this view because of the angle of that cut. This gives me some depth right here, and of course this is the main trunk, and of course I'll have to probably cut this back again, and then as I cut this, but right now I just cut it back so that I can get new growth and not lose so much of the energy that's come up into the branches and everything already. So I'll do that. This branch will likely get cut back more later on, but right now for the next 2 or 3 years that tree is just going to sit and grow. So I'm going to fertilize it and just let it grow for a while, and probably the only thing I'll do is cut the branches back. But at this point I'll wait 2 weeks or a month and then hit it with 0-10-10. But for right now, when I water it in, I'll hit it with some B1 just for the shock value. There's a little bit of fertilizer in that zero or the B1 solution, so it will get a little fertilization. On this fig, you know, I've cleaned out this. When I use, of course, I know when I use that electric chainsaw, it sprays oil on the plant, so I've washed this off. I've washed that tree off also, and I've cleaned the margins where the cuts were made, so hopefully this will callus over. And I'll come back in a little bit and seal the edges like I've done over here. I've already worked on these figs. I've cleaned up the margins, sealed the edges, and they look pretty good. Same here. That is solid wood. I didn't need to seal that or do anything, and the cambium is rolling over already, so I'm just going to leave that the way it is. That is the standard tree sealant, you know, the black tar paint on dressing, and this has been on here going on 10 years or more now, but it's done its job, and the wood is preserved. I've just trimmed this up, so obviously I need some preserving on it, so that's what we have here, mainly in the margins. And while I was at it, I trimmed the wood on this trident maple that I cut, and I went around with my razor knife, my box cutter, and I trimmed the edges, and this stuff right here, the fluff, I got a lot of that cleaned off. I see a little bit more, so I'll clean that, and that will help the cambium to roll over nicer. I've gone through here also and trimmed all of this up to get it nice and smooth as possible. This is primarily dead wood right here, but the bark and the cambium is alive, so hopefully it'll go ahead and roll over this, and we'll be good. This branch is alive, and this is I guess you can say healing cambium from the previous cuts. And since I didn't like the way the tree was growing, you know, I had to make other cuts, so now I'll have to just do the best I can to get this sealed up, and hopefully it will continue to roll over. This branch is alive right here, and we'll see how that goes. But even if I lose this branch is alive, and I should get something back here as far as growth. All of this is dead from there up to the left side. The right side is alive right now. So if I do get something to grow here, then eventually I'll have it to come up and then kind of angle back to the right a little to bring the apex over top of the base of the tree. If this continues to grow, then obviously I can do that from right here, and I'm good. This branch is really alive and producing new shoots, so I've got that option to go with also without having to modify too much on the tree at this point. But again, all of this is going to be sealed here in the next few minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this branch back since I've done the work I wanted. In other words, I didn't lose this branch with the work I was doing. This is looking good, so now I can cut this branch back to increase the back budding on that branch for my new apex, and then I'll determine later on, depending on if this continues to grow or not, whether I want to use something here or not. But again, I've trimmed all of the margins here, and I've got my taper pretty much like I want, and I'm good on this tree except to seal it up and to put it back in its spot. But again, that was a lot of trimming work, and I feel like I produced something positive out of this work today. And oh, also, if I didn't mention it, oh yeah, I think I did. But anyway, I use this to flame that wood, and that not only preserved the wood, but it makes it look a lot better than just what it was normally looking like. So I get several effects out of torching that wood. That is a root over rock trident maple that I just set up yesterday. In some of my other videos, I always try to mention, if you're going to do a root over rock where you want long roots, water it from the bottom as much as you can. I mean, there's nothing wrong with watering it from the top, but for me, it seems that the roots seek the water from the bottom a whole lot better than when the water washes down from the top over the roots. The roots don't have to grow as vigorously because the water is washing down from the top. But when the roots have to search out the water, if you're watering from the bottom, then to me they grow better, okay? So that's just a tip right there. I do a lot of plants like that, and as a matter of fact, that trident on the rock right there, I'm getting ready to cut the top down out of it. But I pretty much grew this in a gallon pot, and I kept it in lots of water, fertilized it in the liquid fertilizer from the bottom. And I've got trees older than this, and I don't have a trunk that large. Now this was started from a seedling, from seed right here. And so basically at this point, the tree itself is probably close to 7 years, mainly grown in a gallon pot, you know, never grown in the ground from a seedling. So that's a pretty good size right there to be container grown over the past, well, all of his life. And of course, if it was grown in the ground, then it would have been a lot larger. That tree right there was grown in the ground, where you see the black culverts right there. It was grown in one of those culverts. That tree is same age as this, started from a seed, okay? And I put it over there, and it went like gangbusters. So, you know, of course, different trees have different growth habits or characteristics, same species and all. So, you know, what I'm saying to you, just because I planted it in the ground in those culverts, that doesn't 100% guarantee or assure that the plant is going to grow like gangbusters over another tree from the same batch. You know, some people are tall, and my lot is some people are short. So that's me. Well, anyway, that was a little follow-up on the fig trees, and trimming them out, getting them repotted. And of course I'll be repotting these other figs, but that's nothing. Alrighty, enjoy.